Maybe I should just, why is it not working? There it goes, right? Now I'm on? Okay. I was going to say, maybe I should have just had us sing songs the whole service. That was rousing. So we're talking about blooming this month. And we all know that flowers need certain things to survive, right? They need good soil and water, varying amounts of sunlight, and enough space for their roots to take hold, their stems and leaves to unfurl, and the blossoms to bloom. But did you also know that some people say that plants that listen to music actually grow better? Have you heard this? Now, just for our scientists among us, I want to be clear, this is not a hard proven scientific fact, I know that, and there are some who dispute it, but there have actually been studies that seem to show that plants, when exposed to music, actually grow bigger. In one of these studies, Canadian engineer Eugene Canby exposed his wheat fields to J.S. Bach's Violin Sonata. And those fields had a 66% higher yield than the fields that didn't get any exposure to music. That is a significant increase for just a little violin music. Now, obviously, the plants aren't really listening to music, right? The theory is that the vibrations from certain types of music stimulate a more efficient transfer of nutrients. But I think it's so telling that plants need, even plants need more than just the bare necessities of life. Even plants do better with some extra beauty. Perhaps you could say that even plants need bread and roses too, right? What I appreciate most about the Bread and Roses strike is the clarity that the strikers had about what they deserve. They knew in their bones that what they deserved went beyond just those necessities, beyond food and water and shelter. These strikers were hoping not just to survive, but to thrive. They wanted working conditions that would allow for that thriving. As Rose Schneiderman put it, they wanted the right to live, not simply exist, the right to the sun and music and art. Now, so often when we think about how we would like our world to be better, we think first about those things that we need as humans to survive. In a lot of ways, this makes sense. Unfortunately, we live in this world where people don't even have those basics. It can be hard to dream past food and clean water when you don't have it. That's the whole theory of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? That those physiological needs must be met before you can think beyond it. But the idea of that hierarchy, I think, sometimes keeps us trapped in thinking small, in this survival thinking. After all, it's a hierarchy of needs, right? So everything in the hierarchy is a need. And so shouldn't we be striving for all of it? Do you really need food before art, or can there be food and art together? When I think about the world I want to live in, it is a world of thriving, not just surviving. So everyone has what they need, food and water and shelter, access to health care and clean air, but they also have access to beauty and joy, to art and music, to community and love. As Unitarian Universalists, we believe that every person is inherently worthy, that each of us has a right to dignity, has that worthiness built into us in a way that no one can take away. And that worthiness in each of us means that we all deserve a world where we can thrive, every one of us. This was the vision that those strikers in Lawrence had, that they deserved a life as full of the necessities and luxuries as the mill owners had. They believed that their worth was so much more than the $8.76 they were being paid each week. And they were bold enough to ask for what they knew they deserved, to demand bread and roses too. The Lawrence strikers knew what kind of world they were building, and they embodied that world in every way they could through the strike. One of the reasons that the strike was able to last as long as it did was that there was a strong network of mutual aid that arose to support the strikers. There were soup kitchens and food distribution, nurseries to care for children while their parents were on the picket line, volunteer doctors offering medical care, and more. Organizing meetings were translated into more than 20 different languages, showing a commitment to the inclusion of all of the nationalities that lived and worked in Lawrence. This was a movement that didn't just ask for bravery and commitment from the mill workers, it also provided for their well-being, allowed them to flourish even in the midst of the fear and the threat from the authorities. It was also a movement that was not without joy. Though the Bread and Roses song that we heard from the choir earlier was likely not sung in the streets of Lawrence, there was definitely singing. The strike was known for its parades around Lawrence, which were also a tactic called the moving picket line, which prevented the strikers from being arrested for loitering. But they were joyful too, and they were known for the singing. One observer, Ray Stannard Baker, wrote in the American magazine, "Lawrence is the first strike I ever saw which sang. I shall not soon forget the curious lift, the strange, sudden fire of mingled nationalities at the strike meetings when they broke into the universal language of song. And not only at the meetings did they sing, but in the soup houses and in the streets." I love this image of the strikers with all they were up against singing together, creating beauty and community with their voices. I have to think that they did it in part because they needed that beauty and joy to get them through it all. They needed something to lift up their spirits and to sustain their souls. There's often this sense that we shouldn't find joy in our work for justice, or even that suffering is somehow essential to that work. Even by that word, calling it work, right? We are naming it as something apart from fun, something difficult. I've even heard people who consider themselves more hardened activists criticizing those who show up for rallies and seem like they are enjoying themselves. Their presence is somehow deemed performative and not real enough. They are said to be doing it just to feel good and not for the right reasons. Over the past several weeks, as so many of us have gathered for rallies here in Nashua and up in Concord and elsewhere, I've had some people tell me somewhat sheepishly that they've enjoyed themselves at the rallies. And they said it as if they shouldn't have, right? As if it should be a hardship of some kind. But when I think about the world I want to build, fun and joy and laughter and lightheartedness are all a part of that world. And so shouldn't our work for justice embody that same joy? I want our movements, our organizing, to be so full of joy that people can't help but want to be a part of it. I want our movements to be so infectiously fun, to draw people in because they see the laughter and the love and the care radiating from our gatherings. And I most certainly hope that there will be some good singing. It is serious business, this work of building a better world. It can certainly be full of heartbreak, especially in political moments like this one, but we cannot let that take away our joy. We, all of us, deserve bread and roses. And if our movements for justice are going to succeed, they need to include bread and roses too. They need to take justice seriously, of course, but also to infuse that serious work with joy. UU Minister Reverend Rebecca Parker might call this an embodiment of radically realized eschatology. This is my favorite theology, and it's a fancy theological way of talking about the world as a mix of already and not yet. Here we are, working for a world with more beauty and more justice and more love, right? We know that we're not there yet, that this world is somewhere off in the future. At the same time, we know that we experience moments of beauty and justice and love, right? Right now. We are building a better world, but that doesn't mean we don't get to experience the seeds of that world right now. The seeds of that better world are already among us, waiting for us to nurture them into bloom. But while we are doing the work, we at least get to enjoy the seeds, right? And those seeds of love and beauty and justice are a piece of what sustain us, what keep us going. Back at the beginning of April, I attended one of the Immigrant Solidarity Network's monthly vigils up in Manchester for the first time in several months. I've been participating in the vigils since they began back in 2017, but this year I've had a schedule conflict that left me unable to make it most months. But on that first Tuesday in April, I decided to risk being a little late, which I was, and go to at least part of the vigil. Now these vigils, if you've been to them, they have a pretty set liturgy with singing and readings and a core ritual of walking around the building 7 times. And as I settled into that walk that I had done countless times, I could feel in my bones how much I needed to be there. How much I had missed this act of solidarity and community. And I will admit that I actually felt a little bit of guilt tugging at me. Not for being absent, but for showing up that day because I needed it. Because it fed my spirit. I had that sense that others had shared with me that I shouldn't be enjoying this. I shouldn't be glad to see all these beloved people gathered together. I shouldn't find joy in the singing or grounding in the ritual. But here's the thing. Our world is awfully hard right now, isn't it? We need community and joy and grounding. And we also need to show up for this movement to stop the assault on our country. Those two things don't need to be separated from each other. In fact, if we are organizing well, they will be one and the same. There will be joy and grounding and community and yes, singing too. We need it all and we deserve it all. And there is no bad reason for showing up. Just like those strikers in Lawrence, let's build a movement that is grounded in thriving, not just surviving. Let's build a movement where we take care of each other, where we understand that we need to feed our bodies, but also our souls. Let's build a movement that's so infectiously fun, so compellingly joyful that people can't stay away. Let us build a movement that can sustain us, where we can experience those seeds of beauty and joy and love that we want to grow. And of course, let us build a movement where we do plenty of singing.